Hello, we're live. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. My name is Crystal. I'm a retired electrician, and today we're going to talk about complex grief. Let's see. This should kick on here. Are we still waiting for me? I'm still. All right. There we are. Okay. So welcome to Wellness Wednesday. We're gonna read about complex grief and talk about it and talk about anything you guys need to talk about as far as mental health and Wellness Wednesday goes. So let's see. Where is my? Here it is, right here. We're going to do. We're going to open these. I don't remember exactly which ones I read, but we'll get to them. I have 4 left here. No. It's giving me some issues for some reason. Now this one opened. That one opened. Okay. There we go. Number 2, hopefully. Complicated grief. Yeah, there we go. They're opening now. All right. Okay. So, hey, Jamie, how are you doing? So good to see you. I wanted to show you my shirt. It says I'm the favorite Nana. And that's supposed to be a picture of me. My sister made this for me. It's super cute. I don't usually wear them, but it's a little cold today. The temperature dropped, and it's a little chilly. So I'm wearing a hoodie. I don't usually wear a hoodie, but this one's nice and big and comfortable. Me too. It's so cute and so fuzzy, and it's got these little pocket thingies for your fingers, and it's even got a little pocket, but it doesn't have on the bottom. It doesn't have the where it's tight. It's loose. It's a loose hoodie, so it hangs a little longer than a regular one. Yeah, it's perfect. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about complex grief. I got to pull my sleeves up a little bit here. And how are you doing today, Miss Jamie? What's been going on? Jaron is on his way to Pennsylvania now, and yesterday Oz came over for his birthday dinner. Oh, that was sweet. I saw all your pictures of Ozzy. So cute. When he was a little baby. Is Jaron bringing your stuff that he's been supposed to bring? All right. Let me present. Which one am I going to present? This one's a double. Mayo Clinic. I think we did the Cleveland Clinic. Can't believe he's 27, right? They're flying in. Oh, okay. So I think we covered this one. The Cleveland Clinic and the Mayo Clinic. Let me double check. Complicated grief. It's not what I meant to do. Huh. Maybe we didn't cover this one. I think we only just covered the one. What happened here? Am I not on Google? I see you guys. Oh, okay. I see. This messed me up a little bit. All right. Let's make it big. Okay. I think the one that we covered was the Mayo Clinic. Yeah. Risk factors. Yeah. So we're not going to go back over that one. Okay. Okay, let's share. We're going to present, share screen. This one here. All right. Okay. So let's fix this. What is complicated grief? Complex grief is what I put in the search engine, and complicated came up. So I think it's the same. It's the term for the same thing. So, what is complicated grief? Experiencing the death of a loved one is one of the most painful life events. Grief is a normal reaction and includes a variety of psychological and physiological symptoms that evolve over time. For example, it is natural and expected to experience intense emotions immediately after someone dies. The time and the associated symptomatic response after the loss is referred to as acute grief and includes strong yearning, longing, and sadness. Thoughts and images of the person who has died are also prominent during acute grief. There's often a sense of disbelief or feeling of shock that the loved one is gone, a lessening of interest in activities unrelated to the person who died, and feeling disconnected from other people. Now, that's acute grief. So I'm sure that they are going to be talking about the complicated grief in the next. Most people adapt to even the most difficult loss, and as they make adjustments, grief is integrated in their ongoing life. Thoughts about the deceased person are accessible, but no longer dominate the bereaved person's mind, and the sadness and yearning are less frequently and eventually less intense. Successful adaptation requires understanding the finality and consequences of the loss, revisiting future hopes and plans, and redefining the relationship with the deceased. Additionally, adaptation to loss is helped by the experience of positive emotion, self compassion, and the presence of social supports. Even with successful adaptation, intensity of grief may wax and wane. For example, it might spike in response to holidays, anniversaries, and milestones, and other losses of stressful events. As the grief and loss become integrated into a person's ongoing life and worldview surges, and grief becomes shorter and more manageable. Now, experiencing painful grief is a normal reaction. This is not really telling me what complicated grief is, because it goes how common complicated grief affects between 2 to 3% of the population worldwide and 7 to 10% of bereaved people. It amounts to millions of people in the US alone. This condition is characterized by intense grief that lasts longer than would be normally expected and that impairs daily function. Complicated grief can follow the loss of any close relationship, especially after the death of a romantic partner and among parents who have lost children. How to recognize complicated grief. Okay, let me see. Okay. As in acute grief, the hallmark of complicated grief is persistent, intense yearning, longing, and sadness. These symptoms are usually accompanied by insistent thoughts or images of the deceased and a sense of disbelief or an inability to accept the painful reality of the person's death. Rumination is common and is often focused on angry or guilty thoughts related to circumstances of the death. Avoidance of situations that serve as reminders of the loss is also common, as is the tendency to constantly reminisce about the deceased person or by trying to keep reminders close by viewing, touching, or smelling their belongings. People with complicated grief often feel shocked, stunned, or emotionally numb, and they may become estranged from others because of their belief that happiness is inextricably tied to the person who died. They may have a diminished sense of self or discomfort with the changed social role and are often confused by their seemingly endless grief. We generally think of complicated grief after at least 6 months after the death of someone, sometimes longer if there are other social, cultural, or religious ties to the person. Other names for this condition include prolonged grief disorder or persistent complex bereavement disorder. Well, we didn't get that out of the other one. Hey, Jen, how are you doing? What's going on? Good to see you. We're talking about complex grief, or it's called complicated, or you just heard the other two, persistent grief. And then again, like last week, we can talk about this and anything else you guys need to talk about. So if anything's going on, let me know. We can absolutely address that. Just woke up, so still getting coffee, but I'm good. Okay, that's good, Jen. That's good. And coffee is good too. Okay. So we're talking about complicated grief today. This is a pretty good article. This Association for Behavioral BCT. Let's go back and look at that. Whoops, let me fix it. Doody-doo. Okay. Okay. Other names for this condition include prolonged grief disorder, persistent complex bereavement disorder, and we know complicated grief and complex grief are two other definitions of this. How complicated grief is different from depression. Now, this I think is very important. I'll be back. I'm accidentally locked out and Joanne left, so I'm trying to find a way in. It's cold out here. Oh no, Jamie, good luck. Good luck. Okay. So, how to recognize if you have complicated grief or you're suffering from depression. And of course, you want to go to a doctor also, but this is just something that can help you say, something's not right. I need to see somebody because something isn't right now. Okay. Complicated grief is different from depression and or post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. They don't call it PTSD anymore, do they? Post-traumatic stress something. While they do co-occur in some cases, and all might include symptoms of depressed mood, anxiety, preoccupying thoughts, or cognitive distortions and avoidance. In complicated grief, these symptoms center specifically around the circumstances of the loss. Rumination or avoidance also relate directly to reminders of the deceased. In depression, depressed mood is pervasive across contexts, and preoccupying thoughts are focused on negative thoughts about self, others, or the world, while avoidance consists of general social withdrawal, not avoidance of circumstances related to the death or the deceased. Alrighty. How complicated grief is different from post-traumatic stress disorder. In PTSD, anxiety is focused on the fear of recurrent danger, as opposed to insecurity without the deceased, as in complicated grief, and intrusive or distorted thoughts relating to the traumatic event, as opposed to the deceased individual. So it looks like the complicated grief focuses on the person who died more than just depression over everything. Symptoms of anxiety and depression can occur in complicated grief, and targeted treatment of the complicated grief response will also reduce anxiety and depression. Let me roll it up here. I'm back. Oh, wait, I'll be back, she said. Okay, so nothing on there. So we'll read some more. This is the Association for Behavioral and Cognitive Therapies. Okay. What are the known risk factors for developing complicated grief? Risk factors include a history of mood or anxiety disorders, alcohol or drug abuse, and multiple losses. Depression in persons who have been caregivers during their loved one's terminal illness, and those who had depression early in bereavement are more likely to develop complicated grief later in bereavement. So if you're already depressed, and it said anxiety disorders, alcohol, and drug abuse, and if you've had multiple losses, you're more likely to develop complicated grief later in bereavement. Personal factors such as these may interact with characteristics of the relationship to the deceased or with the circumstances, context, or consequence of the death to increase the risk. Losing someone with whom one has had a close relationship can be especially hard if the bereaved person had a difficult upbringing, or if they are unusually stressful, or if there are unusually stressful consequences of the death. Inadequate social supports, serious conflicts with friends or relatives, or major financial problems after the death. I'll let you up here. Are you going to poke at me? What are you doing? Okay. So those of us who are already affected by depression can be, oh no, hopefully yeah, I hope so, Jen. Hopefully we'll hear from her soon here so we can make sure she's okay. Is there an effective treatment for complicated grief? And it said, what are known risk factors? Oh, come on. My kitty wants to come and show you guys how pretty he is. Let's go back here. Give him the full picture of super badness. This is the super bad. He's my lovey kitty, but he's been jumping on me a lot while I'm doing lives. I think he's loving the camera, actually. Aren't you? Can you hear that purr? Oh, it's so pretty. Yeah, Jen, he's a super sweetie. But when he wants attention, he wants attention. I can't be on the phone, can't be doing anything but paying attention to him. He knows he's hot. Yeah, he does. He said, I am the beautiful kitty. I know. And he is my snuggly kitty, so I do love to give him attention, but he sometimes, now that he wants to go outside, and they've been able to go outside in Michigan, but today it's 45, so it's cold, but it was 60 yesterday. So they were able to go outside, and now that it's cold today, apparently I have not fixed the weather correctly. Apparently it's my fault that it's cold outside. If you have any pets, you probably understand what I'm talking about. So, all right. So this is a much more in-depth. They don't usually have an article, this ABCT. I think this is because it's cognitive behavioral therapy. We had one like that too. He always wanted me to hold him like a baby. Yes, like a baby. He'll get up on me like he was, and then he'll flip. So he's like a baby right here. And he fits pretty good right there. But I can't hold him for all day. He wants me to hold him all the time. Can't do it, buddy. I have raspberry white chocolate creamer. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. So I hope you're enjoying your coffee as well, Jen. Of course you are. Okay, so let's read a little bit more about, is there an effective treatment? And this is the, what did I say this was? Let's go back over here. This is the Association for Behavioral and Cognitive Therapy. So they are recommending cognitive therapies for this complex grief. And there is, there's DBT, there's CBT. These are therapies that have been done, that have been around for years. And they, instead of just going and talking, you have a, like I had a workbook. You have a more structured therapy type thing. You have almost like a curriculum. I am freezing because we turned the heat off yesterday to air out the house and forgot to turn it back on. Ooh, burr, yes. Oh, yes. That's why I'm wearing the sweater. Oh, I didn't show you my sweater, Jen. My sister makes these. It says, I'm the favorite Nana. And then that's me. Let me get the string. That's supposed to be me right there. And it's a hoodie. It's a nice soft hoodie. And it doesn't have the wraparound on the bottom, so it kind of just hangs, which is a little more comfortable than normal. I know, I'm loving it, especially today when it's a little chilly, but like the heat's not really kicking on because it says it's 69 in here because my heat set at 65, 64, so it's not coming on. But even though it's supposed to be warmer in here, it's cold. So I'm not sure what that's about. I've got my humidifiers going. You can see my little guy right here. Where's it at? Oh, yeah, you can see. I got my humidifiers in the house. That's supposed to warm it up. All right, let's move on. Is there an effective treatment for complicated grief? Okay, there are two approaches. One deals with complicated grief. The other gives us strategies for accepting the loss, and 4, restoring a sense of possibility of future happiness. Wait. One deals with the complicated grief. The other gives us strategies for accepting the loss and for restoring a sense of the possibility of future happiness. So I think what they mean by it is coping mechanisms. A short-term approach called complicated grief treatment, CGT, has been effective with 2 out of 3 people and is more effective than other treatments for complicated grief, including interpersonal therapy and antidepressant medication, and is therefore the treatment of choice for complicated grief. CGT seeks to identify and resolve complications of grief and to facilitate adaptation of the loss. The treatment includes 2 key areas. Dun, dun, dun. So we see this treatment. That's not really what I'm interested in today, but for additional information. Okay. Let's read the last sentence. A reasonable approach is an intervention that provides information about adaptation to grief and includes both strategies to reduce avoidance of reminders of the loss and strategies for helping with depression. And this CGT probably has some type of homework, I would imagine, with it. Yeah. So we did tons of cognitive therapy when I worked in the prison and in the developmentally disabled group. Yeah. Yep. And it usually requires some kind of homework, and it's more structured, I think, than just plain talk therapy. Is that correct, Jen? I think that's what it is. And sometimes when you are depressed or you're just feeling out of control, some type of structure will help you to get through that grief or whatever you're using the cognitive therapy for. All right. Tons of self-work. Yeah. I had a workbook as well. I still have it. But yeah. All right. The profound sadness of prolonged grief from Harvard Medicine. I need to present. And we're going to add this one here and share. Oh, and also, Jen, that's really interesting that you have been involved with that. And were your experiences positive mostly? And was it satisfying? Was it helping where you were helping other people? And I'm hoping that there was that you felt good and that the people you were helping felt good. But I don't know. I've never been in a prison situation or a developmentally disabled group home. So I'm just curious about your work experiences. Some positive, some very, very negative. Okay. So yeah, it's a difficult situation in a prison or a group home. Um Always a very extreme reaction. Yep. Yep. Positive extremes all the way to negative extremes, I would imagine. And so did you find the work fulfilling even though it was difficult? It sounds like it was difficult work. Or was it something that just didn't really speak to you? Not that I'm looking for a job, but it just is really interesting that you've done that. I'm just very interested about your life experiences. It sounds like you've done a lot, and that would be very helpful to us in our mental health journeys as well. All right. Did I share screen yet? Present. No. Okay. This is the Harvard Medical article, and it's the profound sadness of prolonged grief. Another thing I want to address as well, I don't know if it sounds interesting or not, is um, grief. I looked up grief compared to depression, and then I was also wanting to look up, oh man, I can't remember now. It was grief versus something else. Complicated grief versus man, I can't remember now. Cannot remember. They changed the most and were for more open to change than the gangbangers. Yes. Oh, I'm sure. Personality. Oh man. Personality comes into play. I'm huge, huge. And safety, I'm sure. Because an average breakthrough is not going to be like somebody who's been in a gang for years breakthrough, whether it's positive or negative. Alrighty. We're here. Okay. So this is the Harvard Medicine, the magazine of Harvard Medical School. The profound sadness of prolonged grief. Long-term grief often goes undiagnosed, even though treatment can be pivotal to overall well-being. Let's see. Okay, this one looks totally different from the ones that we've already talked about, so that's good. All right. Some people are fortunate enough to find a life partner they consider their soulmate. Such was the case for Jody, a patient of M. Catherine Shear, the Marion E. Kenworthy Professor of Psychiatry at the Columbia University School of Social Work. Holy cow. How about we just say Dr. Shear? How about that? Jody and her second husband were close, practically attached at the hip, and they enjoyed each other's company immensely. When he became chronically and then terminally ill, Jody stayed by his side, taking him to the hospital on several frightening occasions when it looked like he might have reached the end. Most of the gang members had been doing their gang stuff since early childhood, so they didn't see anything worth changing. And that's like a cultural and lifelong type of a thing. So yeah, that's very difficult. And especially when they start from such a young age, they're not open to any other types of treatment. Yeah, yeah. It's really, really, yeah, especially like someone who's living in a certain lifestyle from the time they're young until they're older, the way that their parents maybe treated them or something, didn't realize how it wasn't normal until they go into the, yeah, very generational. That's why they talk a lot in communities where there are a lot of gangs about breaking generational curses. Um, and I think that that's one of the curses that they talk about, like breaking, being in the gang, things like that. They don't want that for their kids. They don't want that for their other family members. But then the little brother that looks up to you sees you doing these things, and how are you going to stop him from being in a gang? Those type of things. And that's the hardest to break if somebody's in that cycle. Yeah. They don't see a future. They don't see a better life or a different way of life. Yeah. All right. All right. Jody's husband repeatedly beat the odds, and with each milestone, he and Jody would gain more hope that he would be the exception, the one who would not lose out to the deadly condition. Then, on a rare day when Jody had stepped away from home, her husband's heart stopped. Riddled by guilt and loss, Jody turned inward, avoiding family, friends, and places she and her husband had frequently. She was captive to her memories, and she sidelined herself from life for nearly 4 years. Now they talked about it here about 6 months, but if grief is lasting longer than a year, you definitely need to speak to someone. I managed to get one of them to go to school by telling him to be smart like old school gangsters. He ended up totally changing his life. And that, Jen, that's what's worth it. Even if it's just one person, to me, if we help one person today. Hey, Shelly, how are you doing? Got to get coffee and let the dog in. Be right back. Okay, Shelly. That to me, like, we chat and we chat and we chat. And if one person feels better when we're done, I think that's the whole point. You know, the whole point of the socializing, the whole point of getting together, the whole point of talking, and to be better, for us to be well. And if one person, if we just every Wednesday, one person feels better, that's my goal. And usually I'm the one who feels better. So yeah, absolutely, Jen. Absolutely. That's awesome. How are you doing today, Miss Shelley? Oh, she's not back yet. She had to go get coffee. That might take a minute. Mine's real sweet today. We have some strong coffee, and I had to put extra cream and sugar in it so it wouldn't hurt my belly. All right. So let's go back to the Harvard study. I sure hope Jamie's okay. I know she hasn't gotten back on. I hope she comes back before we're done so we can make sure she's okay, or I'm going to have to text her. I don't know what the temperatures are where she's at, but let me see, Miss Jamie. Here we go. Are you okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, I sent her an "Are you okay?" So hopefully she'll be back. She knows we're missing her. As I know, sometimes she's got two phones and one of them goes dead real quick as well. So if the other one's in the house, yeah, we could be having a sitch. Oh, what are you guys doing today? Are you guys doing anything fun today or this weekend coming up? I am going today to see my sister. We're going to hang out, but we've been working on her this is embroidery. That's why I like it. It's not going to wear like a just a sticker. And so she has this big embroidery machine we've been working on. And she said when I left, I came home, she sent me a text that it seemed like it was working. But we'll see when I get there today. But today we're going to have some drinks and hopefully the machine will be good. And then I'm helping her with her website for her business. I'm her IT guy. And she wanted me to be the mechanic too, the maintenance person. I said, I can't do both, sister. I can't. I can't do both. So we worked together and fixed the machine. She did most of the work though. Because it's her machine, you know, if something breaks down and I'm not there, I don't want to have to run over there. So anywho, that's what I'm doing today. Jen said absolutely nothing, and so looking forward to it. Awesome. Yesterday was a very long day, and that weekend sucked. I had food poisoning. Oh my gosh, Jen. Yeah, that's horrible. That is horrible. Let's see. I'm not sure. I was asked to go play with makeup with some friends on a live, but not sure if I want to do it or not. You should, Shelly. I just saw your post on Instagram with your new palette. I think it's a new palette. It was so pretty. You did such a great job. She's still out here. So she says she's still out there, but she's okay. So at least we know she's okay, but she couldn't get in the house. Miss Jamie is locked out of the house, Shelly. I don't think you were here for that. Stay warm. So I know. I didn't ask her what the temperature was either, but usually her weather's about like mine. And so yesterday we had 60. So I don't know if she would have that today or if she's having the same 40s I'm having. Usually a couple days later. So yes, I'm obsessed with that palette. Yeah, it was very pretty. I think you should play with some makeup because I think you're getting really good at it. I mean, you've been doing it for a long time, but that last picture was so pretty. Yeah, I assumed you didn't use a filter. Hello, Joe. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing today? We're talking about complicated grief, and then we're just kind of chatting. And Miss Jamie was here earlier, and she is locked out of her house. So hopefully, she says, hopefully she'll get in there. Crystal, it's supposed to be in the 70s Friday and Saturday. I know. I can't believe it. And yesterday was really nice too, but today I'm freezing. I had a light hoodie on and went outside and stuff, but I'm cold. It's that huge drop in temperature. Why does Michigan, I think it dropped like 17 degrees from yesterday. It's 40 something today. Oh, my husband said 44, and yesterday it was like 60 something. So, yeah, 20 degrees overnight. So yeah, I'm hoping that the temperatures will, hang between like 50 and 60. Oh no, Jen, you're supposed to get snow. Oh my gosh. Michigan is confused. Yes. But it'd be nice if we could actually be in spring and have like spring like weather. I don't mind the rain. I really don't want any snow, but I'd like it to be in the 50s, between 50, 60 every day. 70's okay, but I can wait for summer. So that stinks that you're going to get snow. I hope that snow doesn't come this way, Jen. Sometimes we do get what you get, but once it hits the mountains, it seems like it goes away. You're ready for summer. I enjoy spring. Like last year, it didn't seem like we had a spring. It just went from winter to summer. But this year, I'm hoping, since the temperatures are warming up already, that we will actually have, like, April will be like 50s and 60s. So, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I want to do a lot of gardening this year. Um, and hopefully my body will agree with me and it'll be good. Um, how are you doing, Joe? I'm going to go ahead and read some more on the this is the Harvard magazine. Um, and this woman, she's telling the story about had grieved complex grief for 4 years. She didn't do anything but miss this person. Experiencing grief is natural and necessary. And the vast majority of people suffering the loss of a loved one experience it for a predictable period of time, generally 6 to 12 months. But sometimes people like Jody become stuck. The grief remains acute and they can't move forward. They experience what is known as prolonged grief. And I've seen that. Have a great day. Gotta run. Bye, Jen. We're doing gardening too. I'm a little nervous about the physical part of gardening, though. Yes. And what I do is I forget. I get in my head when I'm gardening, it clears my mind. I just enjoy the flowers and being outside. And then it's 2 hours later and I can barely walk. So, what I do if I'm smart, sometimes I set a timer for however long I think I can go and not be in pain. And then I sit. So I'll be walking around, maybe watering, or maybe I'll use I do the weed eater thingy. And then when the timer goes off, I need to sit. I sometimes forget to set that timer, Joe. I'm not gonna lie, but if you can do it, that's the way that I do it. Hey, Joe. Hey, Shelly. Schmexy. That is an interesting word. Schmexy. Yeah, just if you can do that, which, like I told you, I'm not the best at it. Yeah, it's the standing, bending over, that's a not for me. That's what I mean. I can do that for about 20 minutes because I can't kneel at all. That's not happening. I think I'm going to get one of those little garden things, seats where it has the wheels on it and you can roll it around. I'm going to try and get one of those because I can't get off the ground, but even if my knees are a little bit bent a little further, I can still get up from it. And they look pretty sturdy, the ones with the wheels, and you can put your tools inside of it. Yeah, it's true, Shelly, same thing. But I can do about 20 minutes if I sit down for maybe 20, do 20 on, 20 off. And when I'm planting, I'm sitting. So because I'm doing pots. So if I'm planting, I'm sitting, and that usually works okay. It's about time management, basically. If I just go out there without it, I'm just like, I'm going to go outside for a second. And then I start doing something. And then, and then I'm down for 2 days. So, yeah, my knees are like, do not even think about putting your butt on me. I know. If I kneel down, I'm not getting up. So I don't do that. I even had knee pads for a while, but I can't do it. It doesn't work anymore. So I did invest in one of those long weeder things. It's got the spikes on the bottom. I hope it works. So I don't have to bend over to pull weeds. Right? If I end up doing it for a lot longer, especially if I'm enjoying myself. It's the first, really nice day, or if I go to buy flowers or whatever, yeah. Yep. So that timer on the phone, and you just got to make sure you keep your phone with you. That works. But I'm looking at investing in that little garden seat with the wheels. And I have a little seat that pops up that you can just sit on, but it doesn't have tools and stuff in it. And it's all right. It's all right. But I think I want that garden thing. So even though they are expensive, I'm going to just have to save up. And that's that. So I am looking forward to it, though. I love the flowers. I got some, you know how Dollar Tree had spring stuff out in January? They had these pretty good sized pots because I was going to put flowers in the ground and I just have trouble with it. So I got some of these big pots and you fill them up with like water bottles and stuff. You just don't, and then you put that plate or something on it. You don't just fill the whole thing up with dirt. It's a waste. So I'm gonna do that. I got 4 of them, and I'm just gonna put mulch all over the garden bed. Do 4 of them, and that'll be where my flowers will be in there. And I'll just, every year I'll just put more flowers in there. But yeah, it's the bending down and getting on the ground is not good for me anymore. So yeah, just hire someone and supervise. Still out here. Oh, Jamie, what temperature are you? Are you in the 40s like we are? Yeah. We're worried about you. We hope you get in soon. I know. All right. Let's go back to the article. Oh, we said generally 6 to 12 months. If it's longer than that, if you don't see any improvement, you really need to seek medical attention. It says, but sometimes people like Jody become stuck. The grief remains acute and they can't move forward. They experience what is known as prolonged grief. Okay. And that's another name for the complex grief. Yeah. I saw 48 to 50, but windy, and the wind is cold. Yeah. Yeah, that wind is real cold. Oh, Miss Jamie, I hope you got a coat. You probably just got that hoodie on, don't you? I bet you do. All right. Ensnared in despair. When a loved one dies, those left behind naturally feel various levels of sadness, anger, guilt, fear, and loneliness. These are the hallmarks of acute grief. It's a normative, I think that means normal response to experience an initial period of loss that is both intense and time limited. I don't know about that. Naomi Simon, a professor of psychiatry at the blah blah, it will change form as it goes on and it will vary from person to person and culture to culture. Eventually, acute grief will slip to the background, integrating the emotions associated with the loss into the survivors' lives. This is the notion that you have processed the permanence of and adaptations to loss. This one's a little bit annoying me. Grief hasn't ended, but it has changed. For about 7% of those who are bereaved, however, grief sticks around in a deeply painful manner, preventing them from moving forward and healing. Prolonged grief, also referred to as complicated grief, traps the individual in a loop of despair from which they cannot escape. Determining when grief becomes pathological, I think that means prolonged, depends on whose guidelines are being followed. The WHO issued a new guideline saying that grief lasts beyond 6 months should be considered prolonged grief disorder. A specialist should be consulted when determining treatment. Described it as grief that persists for 1 year or more. So it's been added to the DSM, prolonged grief. So it is a psychological disorder. Mired and bereft. Prolonged grief generally presents with an inability to adapt to the loss. You wake up and feel like your loss is brand new over and over. Mm-hmm. Simon & Shear, who also is the founder and director of the Center for Complicated Grief at Columbia, depression, anxiety on the condition and related bereavement issues. This is a little, Harvard medicine is a little annoying with all the big words. Grief can be complicated, much as wound healing can be complicated, with the intensity and duration of symptoms heightened and prolonged. Typically, thoughts that prolonged grief sufferers experience include second-guessing, grief judging, and catastrophizing the future. Behaviors include excessive avoidance, social withdrawal, substance use, and negative health behaviors. Okay. Just your hoodie. See, I wish I could come help you. I'd go to Jackie Chan on it and get you in. You have to go to Pennsylvania. Oh. Let me check the time. 2:22. This Harvard article is annoying me if you haven't noticed with all these big words and stuff. So let's see if I can get through it. The patients sometimes carry a lot of self-blame and have a tendency to repeat what-if scenarios, imagining alternative scenarios in which their loved one didn't die. This is all natural and even helpful early on, but eventually they must be able to set those feelings aside or figure out how to resolve them. While there are not rigid rules as to who is more likely to experience such grief, Shear says that in general, people who lose an identifying relationship, a parent, a child, a spouse, are more susceptible to the condition. If the separation was traumatic, such as suicide or tragic accident, grief can be especially difficult. Women tend to seek treatment more often than men. In clinical settings, over 80% of complicated grief patients are women. The reason may be related to differences in the place of relationships in women's lives. In older adults, prolonged grief can affect as many as a quarter of those suffering a loss, according to 2011 study. While a 2014 study stated that about 9% of bereaved older women, defined as women over the age of 65, experienced prolonged relief. Relationship to the deceased, in particular, if it was a child or a spouse, was more predictive of the condition. Excuse me. And that makes more sense if you lose someone who's really close to you. Give us some water. After the pandemic, rates of prolonged grief among older adults may move even higher, says Simon. But given the DSM-5's requirement that grief persists for 12 months following a loss, not enough time has elapsed for data to be assessed. So this must have been just after COVID, this article. Caregivers like Simon are preparing. A June 2020 letter issued an early warning that increased rates of prolonged grief may be expected, considering the circumstances of many COVID deaths, in which symptoms are typically elevated when deaths are unexpected. Traditional grief rituals, saying goodbye, viewing, and burial of the body are absent, and physical social support is lacking. Not only were older adults hit hard by COVID 19, most lost the social constructs that would normally ease the process of grieving. Yeah, we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't do anything. So much has developed over the centuries to help us grieve. Comforting rituals and support after death, for instance. But with COVID, besides goodbye and social support, bedside goodbyes and social support were off the table. If you can't process the permanence of the loss, it is difficult to move forward. Regardless of who experiences it, prolonged grief comes with increased risk. In Shear's work, suicidality, I would say suicide, heart trouble, cancer, and physical ailments often accompany the condition's emotional effects. That was a long one. So let's go back to StreamYard. Oh, they use the big words to confuse people instead of helping them, right? I just skip over them. Like suicidality. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But I'm pretty sure it just means suicide. Ality. I'm not sure. I was never good at English or spelling. Like the root word and the, that kind of stuff. Let's see. A path to understanding. In spite of its debilitating consequences, prolonged grief is often an overlooked diagnosis. One of the first researchers to identify it as a distinct condition was a sociologist, blah, blah, during her postdoctoral career in the mid-90s at what was then the Western Psychiatric Institute, blah, blah. She noticed bereaved elderly adults who weren't responding to treatment for depression, says Shear. Her statistics showed that grief symptoms loaded differently than those of depression. She came to me for treatment ideas. They worked together, going to communities, talking to hospice and grief counselors, blah, blah, which helps identify how strong the bonds. To improve how prolonged grief was identified and diagnosed, they established a 19-item inventory for screening patients. The inventory comprises a series of statements about grief related through the behaviors such as frequent intense anger, bitterness, belief that life is empty, meaningless, and unbearable because the person has died, and intense yearning or overwhelming desire to be with the person again. Patients select one of 5 responses that range from never to always. Before a physician can screen a patient, the patient must seek or be guided to help. Many of our patients actually self-identify. Family members or other loved ones can also be a catalyst to seek treatment. So, with all the big words, I understand, like we said, so if you're feeling intense grief, it hasn't lightened or it hasn't become easier to deal with within a year. And I say a year because you can't, 6 months is kind of quick, You may want to seek treatment to help you figure out why you can't move on, why you can't get over it, or what is it that is causing this intense for it to stay so long, but again, there's really no time limit on grief. I would just say if it's not getting better within a year, I don't think you're done grieving in a year. But if it's not getting better within the year, if it's just continuing to get worse and worse, and you're becoming more withdrawn and more angry and just worse and worse and worse, then I would definitely seek treatment. If you are feeling better, but you're still grieving, I think that that's normal. And you can't put a time limit. We've said that before. There's no time limit on grief. Everyone grieves differently. nobody grieves in the exact order of the steps of grief, or the time constraints. Nobody totally, uh, you don't totally get over the loss of someone really close to you anyway. You get better with it, you can live with it, but you know, and you're not like withdrawn and things like that. But that person is still not in your life, and your memories and your feelings are still there, and you still miss that person sometimes, but it gets better, it gets lighter. But I don't think it, like we said, you get through grief, you don't get over it. We don't want to say get over it. It's been a year, get over it. You can't do that. That's not how grief works. Everyone's different. Everybody has a different way they grieve. And yeah. And we've talked about that before. So that is what it is. So this study is a little annoying, but some interesting things were in there, so can't just totally knock it. Let's see. Relearning happiness. Let's see what they have to say about this. Shear and others have determined that patients experiencing prolonged grief generally do not respond to the type of treatments traditionally used to address depression and PTSD, as they have worked to establish a separate protocol for treating this condition, the condition being complicated grief. The good news is that complicated grief patients have an immense capacity to heal and pull through. It's not a quick process, but it also won't require a decade of psychotherapy, she says. Shear's group developed a 16-week treatment protocol that tested it in 3 different national institutes. Blah blah. The results were promising. On average, 70% of patients found relief. Now, 70% is more than half, but that's still 30% of people who didn't respond to the treatment. So in general, the treatment protocol focuses on helping people accept the reality of their loss and restore their capacity for well-being. This is achieved by working in 7 main areas: accepting grief, managing emotions, envisioning a positive future, strengthening relationships, narrating the story of the death, living with reminders, and connecting with memories. Patients have weekly meetings with trained therapists and are given activities to complete between sessions. These also are targeted procedures in each area, such as working on a long-term goal, inviting a family member, and this sounds like CBT to me, or visiting places that hold grief trigger reminders of their loss. The comfort of condolences. So yeah, like in that last article, the CBT treatment we were talking about. Let's see. People need to know that their feelings are valid. Yes. I don't think it ever gets better. You just have to find a way to live without them. Right. And not better, but lighter. If it's not getting lighter, if it's not getting like you think about it all day, every day at first, but if it's not getting easier to live life, then you may want to seek treatment. But I don't think, yeah, you have to find a way to live without them. That's true. Exactly, Jamie. I agree, Jamie. But when I'm upset, I lie and say everything's fine. Yeah, we know that, Zach. You have to stop doing that. You have to tell us what's going on with you so you can get it out. It's been 7.5 years, but being here for my kids and grandkids helped me move forward. Right. And you still miss him. I mean, they make it sound, it was a little cold in that article there from Harvard, that you just, after you're in this 12-week program, you're all better. That's not going to happen. Um, but you have a different life goal, where someone with complex grief, Jamie, wouldn't have been able to help their kids and grandkids. And we've heard about situations like that. I'm sure, even if it's just on TV, someone who loses someone and then their kids are affected because that person just, you know, they grieve the loss of this child, but they have two other children that are alive, and you still need to have joy in that. You still can have a life with them. You know what you're hurting your relationship with your kids. And I know we've seen it on TV and heard about it on the news or whatever, from these articles and doctors and things. And that's when you need help, when you're just not living life, you're withdrawing. And there are other people, there are other children that need you, you know. Zach says, it will be 11 years for my brother in April, and I still miss him. It sucks when you're super close with the person who passes. Yes. And they're saying that it's harder with this complex grief, is more common if you are really close to the person who passed, especially if it was an unexpected death, Zach. That can also make it harder to grieve. But I want you to know that if it's not lightening up for you, and I think it has, I think you still grieve, but it's lightening up. It's not getting worse. You're not getting more withdrawn because your brother's not with you. That I think that you're on the grieving path, and it takes as long as it takes. My mom has been gone since 83, and I still have my sad moments. Absolutely, Shelley, absolutely. The first year was bad. If it wasn't for my kids, I am sure life would have had a different outcome. Exactly, Jamie. Exactly. Um, and I think that that's what, like like they said, older people are more prone to this complex grief, because once they lose their loved one, maybe their friends have all died and they don't have anyone else. And, so it's more common for older people. They said over 65. But it's not uncommon for anybody. It's just more common if you're of that age. And I think that's why you don't have the social network you had when you were in your 40s. Maybe your good friends have died, and that person was your whole life. What do you do when your whole life is gone? Um, Excuse me. I don't want to think about it, because I have several people that I'm close to, and I don't want to lose any of them. So I think of the good memories I had with him when I'm upset. And that is healthy and positive, and that is the way that you want to go, Zach. That is, you still grieve, but you have those happy memories, and you still live your life. Um so yeah, after my brother passed, I had bad thoughts go through my head. Joe knows what they were, but I didn't try anything. Right. And when someone first passes, that's not uncommon. That's not uncommon. Um, so what am I trying to say? That it's not uncommon to feel those feelings. Just don't act on them. Losing Jaren's best friend at 24 has been really rough on him. Right, Jamie. Unexpected death, so young, was his best friend. Hopefully Jaren will be able to go through the grieving process, and it'll get easier for him. But it's possible that something like this, they said that unexpected death is also another reason for another situation where complex grief can take a part. That's around the age my brother was, Jamie. Yeah. Zach. Hmm. So Jamie's son is kind of going through the same thing, and that was just last month. So he's still fresh in it. So I hope that Jaren is doing okay, Jamie. I don't know if you get to talk to him. Is he still calling you every day, every other day, keeping in touch? Alrighty. What else do we have over here in this article? The comfort of condolences. Mhm. Mhm. And I've been noticing, Jamie, that our StreamYard, um, like I deleted a bunch of old recordings we had, and I thought that would make it so that last week you could read the comments live on YouTube, but you can't. I think it's because we have the free, but I don't want to jump up to $50 a month. Yes, we talk all the time, but I see it hurting him. Yeah. Yeah, but it's good that he's still keeping in touch with you. If he withdraws and doesn't call you, that's when you're going to want to worry. Funny thing is, Jamie, before he passed away, I wasn't home, but my brother was, and he said he was talking to him and playing with the dogs, and then he went back to bed. Yeah. Alrighty. The comfort of condolences. Oh, we're gonna hit this. Despite the fact that prolonged grief is getting more recognition these days, there remains an overall lack of awareness of it in the medical community. Part of the problem, Professor blah blah, member blah blah, blah blah. The whole paragraph is just about the doctor. Is that grief is an issue that receives virtually no attention in medical school. Grief is often considered outside the scope of practice by most physicians. Even medical students who receive some training in hospice and palliative care and are exposed to end of life issues have little exposure to grief. I think I need to blow my nose. What are you doing, mister? You want to show everybody your pretty face? All right. Even medical students who receive, okay, some students may hear about bereavement when they encounter a patient who dies, but prolonged grief isn't understood or treated, as a separate entity. And while some physicians make a phone call, write a note, or attend a memorial service, they are rarely further contacted after the death. The loss of the relationship with the physician may compound the family's grief. We do not have a system or a set of routine practices for caring for the bereaved, adds Block. This makes identifying the case of prolonged grief much less likely. There should be a handoff from the deceased patient's doctor to the survivor's primary care, but that really doesn't happen. We need to consider this more at the systems level. Ideally, we would teach primary care physicians to check in about illness, mood, substance use, and basic functioning after a patient has lost a loved one. The Institute has taken steps to send a letter of sympathy to a member of each deceased patient's family and has provided physicians with training on how to write such letters to survivors. It's the only system-wide effort I know of. Hospices do a good job of following up with families after a death and serve as a model for everyone else. Many physicians are grateful for guidance on how to construct such letters. I think there is a growing recognition of the importance of this practice that may be especially true now The pandemic has at least brought grief, including prolonged grief, into the space of better awareness. I am not sure what's going on. Oh. I think my cat just turned off my. Let's scroll down here. Come back over here. Thank you, Joe. Zach, I am okay. The cat's turned off the air filter, so let me turn it back on real quick. It looks like it's still on, but I can't turn it on for some reason. Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't know if I've shown everybody, so I'm going to show you guys again. My shirt my sister made me. It says favorite. I'm the favorite Nana. And that's me. That's supposed to be me. I was at my sister's a long time yesterday. She better not have gotten me sick. As I told her, she was sick. And I told her, she better not get me sick. She's like, I'm fine. And I said, okay, I'll help. But there will be some issues if she has made me sick. And I used all my medicine before I came on. So I think it might just be because the filter turned off. So there is a lot of dust in here. All right. Oh, one thing we're going to do today is I got some of the pre-made espresso martinis because I've never had a real one. My sister just kind of mocks one up with whatever she's got. So we're going to have fancy schmancy. They're in a can, so it's not that fancy. And you can drink them without alcohol. It's alcohol free. And you can add alcohol if you want to, but they're espresso martinis. So I'm going to try some fancy schmancy espresso martinis today. And we'll spread them apart so I can drive home later. But I will be having that today. It's redneck bougie. Is that what it's called? That's definitely my sister. She's redneck bougie. Yeah, she'll just be like, well, I have this, and I think this goes in it. And she'll just kind of throw it together. But this one's already made, and you just add the alcohol if you want. So, yeah. Yeah, Joe, that is exactly the description of my sister. Love her. She's awesome. So, and she's the one who made this. I love the embroidery, though. I know it's more expensive, but it doesn't fade away like, like the stickers. I don't like it when the stickers start to peel and fade and stuff. So, yeah. So, I'm looking forward to that this evening. 2:49. We got about 10 minutes. We can talk about anything you guys want to talk about because that Harvard article really annoyed me. There we are. Finish my coffee. Now I've been drinking my water. You're hillbilly bougie. Yeah, my sister will take whatever she's got in the house and she'll just make a meal out of it, just throw it all together. And you're like, sometimes it's good. Sometimes, but sometimes it's really good too. So it's always edible. But whether it's a hit or a miss, yeah, I'm not like that. I have to have directions or it just isn't going to work. It's not going to turn out. I'm going to burn it. I mean, I have to have all the directions, measuring cups, temperatures, time. I got to have it all. So I like looking recipes up on the internet. They have all that stuff in there. Because I'll be like, that was really good. What'd you put in it? Well, I think a little of this and a little, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to make that. She will sometimes use the recipe from the internet, but she always adds something extra, or she doesn't quite have this, so she'll add that. I like directions and then I add my own pizzazz. Yeah, she does that too. But yeah, I'm a box mix or the one thing that I make good from scratch, but I use the recipe on the back of the Nestle Toll House cookies, the chips that I make from scratch. But that's pretty much it. Other than, like making a roast or I can make a roast. Soup, chicken noodle soup is my favorite to make from scratch. But it's not like I make the noodles. I buy the noodles. I cook the chicken. I make get the chicken broth nice and yummy. Add the veggies. That I can do. I've been making chicken noodle soup even when I was working at U.S. Steel because we'd always get sick. And so I would always make a chicken noodle soup in the winter that had a lot of garlic in it. And I still add the garlic. It was very garlic centered because it was supposed to knock the cold right out of you. So, not so much garlic now. I still make it in the wintertime though, and it's yummy. So I use those, either the wide egg noodles or those noodles that are a little thicker and they're kind of like sliders. They're not dumplings. They're not thick like dumplings, but they're a little thicker than a regular noodle. Yeah, love those. So there's some things I'm good at and some things I just am not. And baking from scratch is not. I made what is that, Jamie? Gourd velvet? I used my nose spray already. I think my sister gave me something. Oh, I made homemade red velvet. Oh, red velvet for Ozzy's birthday. Oh, did he like it? Yeah. Now I will do a box mix and add stuff to it. Because the base is already there. But from scratch, I guess I always say if I made it, it's from scratch. I hope you're not sick. Thank you, Joe. She better not have got me sick. But she had a stuffy nose. She's like, oh, it's just a stuffy nose. I think I have allergies. Well, I used my nose spray today. I shouldn't have a stuffy nose. It's a recipe that's been in our family for years. Oh, yummy, Jamie. That's awesome. And did I say thank you, Joe? Yeah. I'm going to see her again, so. Let's see, what time do we have now? We have 6 minutes. So if there's anything you guys got going on, I think we already talked about that though. Did you make it inside yet, Jamie, or are you still outside? I even made the icing. Ooh, because that's that cream cheese icing, right? On the royal or on the red velvet. I love me some cream cheese icing. Yes, I do. My mom makes a really good one. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to my sister's. We'll either be working on The website, we'll be working on her machine. No, but it's very unhealthy. That makes it even yummier. Yeah, this stuffy nose is messing with me. Okie doke. Flour, milk, sugar, vanilla, and lots of butter. Oh, yeah. Lots of butter. Butter is, I know it's not supposed to be our friend, but I think in moderation it can be. I don't buy margarine. I buy real butter. I agree. Just all the good stuff isn't healthy. I know, Joe, all the good stuff. But it's so good. She doesn't make him a cake all the time, but when you get that special birthday cake and it's yummy like that, you just gotta have the unhealthy stuff too. Okay. I think next week we'll switch to a different topic. Not sure what. Now this spring forward, it doesn't seem to be bothering me as much as the fall. The fall back really messed me up. But the spring forward, I'm doing okay. I think it's because I don't work, and so I can get up when I want to get up. And so I'm doing okay. But I look outside and I go, is it really worth it? And the weather guy's like, maybe not now, you won't notice it, but in the middle of summer, you'll notice it. Or like when we fall back, if we don't fall back, then in December, the sun won't rise until 9 a.m. or something like that. Complicated. And so because they keep saying we're going to do away with it, or we're going to stay in daylight savings time, or we're just going to keep it like it is, or blah blah blah. And I'm like, I just know that when you work and you lose that hour, it's painful. It's painful. And I didn't have like a Monday through Friday schedule at the steel mill, so I would have to get up an hour early on Sunday or try to go to bed an hour early on Saturday, and I would still feel horrible. You know what my dad drinks? He likes V8. Ew. I don't like V8, but you know who my husband likes it too, Zach. So I understand. I don't like it. Not a fan. But now he drinks more like fruit juices, but he does like V8. If I'm gonna have something that's a bunch of vegetables, I want it warm, like soup. I'm good with that. But not no. Yeah. The healthy stuff is also more expensive. It is it really is, yeah. Yeah, and groceries, oh my gosh. Prices are going up everywhere. I got a small French fry from McDonald's. It cost $2.50. I was like, well, how much is the medium? And she said $3.50. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now with this? I couldn't believe the prices. It's crazy. So, needless to say, just the prices on everything is going up. And if it's organic, it's going up even more. So, my favorite drink right now, Zach, is kombucha. Kombucha. I had to buy a bottle of red food coloring. $4 for the little bottle? Jeez. It's just ridiculous. I don't know. I do, like I told you, every 2 months I get to go to the food pantry, and so that helps a lot. A little 1 ounce bottle. Wow. It's That's crazy. $4 for food coloring. You used to could get those little 1, 2, 3, 4 colors for like less than $1. I'm so glad we get eggs from my neighbor. She does 18 for $5. Oh, that's really good. Yeah. A dozen and a half for $5, and you're getting them from your neighbor, so they're not, Hello, Lady Spellbreaker. How are you doing? Jamie said 18 eggs, $11.49. I know for a dozen, it's over $5, so it's like $5.29, $5.59, something like that. And $5 for 18 eggs. That's really good. And especially when they're fresh like that, Joe. I mean, I hope you are all doing well, taking good care. Yes, absolutely. We're complaining about food prices right now, Lady Spellbreaker. A dozen for $7.50. That's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? And I use eggs in a lot of stuff, and I also like to eat eggs, so I'm paying the price. It's, you get more protein than like a pound of hamburger, which is $6 here too. If you get the really lean stuff, you're paying $7.50. I'm doing okay. I took my trampoline outside to jump in the sun. It's going to be 80 for the blood moon eclipse. Wow. That's tonight too, I think, isn't it, Lady Spellbreaker? They talked about it on the news. But it's going to happen at like 3 a.m. here. I still think a pound of ham lunch meat is 12-ish. It's crazy. Yeah. It really is. It really is. Yeah. I thought about even buying a big roast, and now we have one of those KitchenAids, and they do make a meat grinder, and it's actually, I think they run around $50. I'm like, would we be better off just buying a big roast and grinding it ourselves? Oh, I work in retail. I know prices are way high. I spent $8 for organic. Yep. Cage-free age. I work at Meijer. Yep. Yep. Especially organic. Because they know with all this talk about bird flu and stuff, people don't want to eat those mass-produced eggs. They don't want to take the chance. Do you have Meijer there, Crystal? It's only in Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, I think. Yes, we do have Meijer here. And the headquarters is in Grand Rapids, I think. Jaron bought a whole cow and a floor freezer. Yes, the blood moon is tomorrow night at 1:55. Yeah. Yep, they were talking about it on the news today. And I know Myers has butchers. I think they used to. I don't know if they still do. Oh, it's 3:00. It was cheaper to buy the whole cow for meat, right? Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've been thinking, because I don't know what a chuck roast is per pound, but I have been thinking about it because just it's just so expensive. I don't eat meat because I don't want whatever they pump into the animals. I use only grass-fed, steroid-free for collagen. Oh, okay. Yeah, my husband is a meat eater. I could be a vegetarian and still eat the fish and the chicken, but he's a meat eater. So, and we eat dinner together. So, but that's interesting for collagen. For joints and things like that. That's why I buy Totino's $1.50 a meal. LOL. I know, but we know those are not healthy for you, Jamie. Uh-huh. Oh, it's after 3. What am I saying? Okay, guys. So we're going to change the subject next week. I'm not sure what to. If you want to put something in the group chat, you can, and we'll talk about that. Collagen for joint skin. Yeah, hair and nails. Okay. Yeah. I get that, lady spellbreaker. 4 meals for $6.50. I know. Those pizzas are good though, but they are not good for you, I'm sure. So thank you guys for coming. And I hope that this was helpful. I do a lot of fasting, so I have to get my protein in during my eating window. Yeah. Absolutely. Or you'll just dwindle away to nothing. So thank you guys for coming. I hope that you take something away from today, whether it's a smile or just a thought, whatever. So that's all I've got. That's it. Okay. So I'll see you guys next week. I'm not sure if you guys want to do a private video or not. Again, you can put it in here or you can put it in the Instagram message. So so I will talk to you guys later. Have a great week. Bye everybody. Bye.